Welcome to Inspiring Women with Laurie McGraw. I am your host, Laurie McGraw. I have spent the past 30 years in leadership, and over the years, I've come to learn one thing: women need women, and not just any women, but inspiring women. Tune in every week to hear from women at the pinnacle of their careers and from others who are just starting out. Episodes can be found at inspiringwomen.show or subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Thanks for listening, and I hope you will be inspired. This is Inspiring Women, and I am Laurie McGraw, and today I'm speaking with Andrea Belk Olson. Now, Andrea self-describes as a behavioral scientist, which is where what she's trained in, a customer expert, and a change enabler. She is a prolific writer. She is the author of 3 books, the most recent being What to Ask, How to Learn What Customers Need, But They Don't Tell You. She has an organization called Pragmatic, where it is a consultancy organization, although don't call Andrea a consultant. She thinks that is a baloney term. And we met, actually, Andrea, as you and the 12 things I looked through. I think you have 12 different things that you are currently doing. One of those being you run the TEDx program in Davenport, Iowa, where we met. And Andrea, thank you for being on Inspiring Women.
Oh, God, thank you for having me. I'm really looking forward to a great conversation here.
Yeah, this will be great. So, I always start Inspiring Women this way, but it is true. You have 12 different things that you are currently presently doing in terms of all of your positions. So busy, I think, is the understatement of the year. But Andrea, what is day to day? What does today look like for you?
Oh, gosh, today is a wide variety of things because I'm coming off a weekend where one of the 12, I was teaching at the University of Iowa at their entrepreneurial school. We had a basically consolidated, intense weekend where students get together over Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, 12 plus hours a day, building a business from scratch. So then they pitch at the end, which they pitched yesterday, and win money in a competition. So it was really great, bit exhausting. And so today is a whole bunch of catch up and kind of making sure you've got all your ducks in a row for the week.
Sure. So you work with a tremendous number of entrepreneurs. You work with other researchers and businesses and a whole variety of different people, including the TEDx program. So maybe just walk us through, Andrea, because I think your background is in marketing and behavioral science. So a little bit of the career trajectory for you.
Oh gosh, the career trajectory is maybe a non-traditional one. So I did go to college. I graduated from the University of Iowa. And, to be honest, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to work for an ad agency because I love the creativity. I kind of love the whole packaging and messaging. And sometimes when, advertising or marketing just really hits home, you go, wow, it's just so inspiring. Right. So I wanted to do that. And I actually had reached out in college to a few different agencies. And one that was a female-led LGBTQ firm. And the first thing that the owner said, and I'll never forget, she said, go and learn how everything's produced. Go to a print shop, go somewhere and understand the production side of agency work before you get into the agency and creative side of work, which was really the foundation for me to help my design skills, copywriting skills, just development skills and learning Photoshop and Illustrator and all those different Adobe programs and understanding the production process. And at that time, a friend of mine said, hey, he just got out of college too. And he said, I want to start this tech company. And he said, you have graphic design skills, you have layout skills, you have copy skills. Why don't you join me? Are you up for this? And I said, sure. So what we did for the next 10 years is built our little, 3-person shop into about $30 million company that exists today and is thriving. So that was quite a educational journey that I would say never could have gotten in any other environment anywhere else. Then I moved on to kind of a new challenge. The startup life is exhausting and tiring. And building tech platforms really wasn't my thing.
Mhm.
But building a company was. So I moved on to two different global companies, multi-million-dollar companies that were looking for someone with marketing, but also digital strategy experience, which I had learned building the company.
Mhm.
So they were kind of moving into that space. They were actually manufacturers, which is a whole different sector. And honestly, male dominated, incredibly male dominated. So going from this kind of Wild West cowboy environment to this very command and control traditional setting, and had to navigate that, but navigated all these different cultures and countries, which then exposed me to all these new things. And then put everything together and found out that, it's not so much that I don't want to make change and I don't want to have something that's a significant challenge, but I do want to really focus on what makes change in an organization and how you can compete and differentiate. And a big part of that is people and communication. So hence the consulting firm came about, started as a part-time thing while I was working full-time somewhere else, and then kind of transgressed into that being full-time. It's expanded. We've grown over 300% year over year. And it's evolved. But I think that's the premise, is that you have to be constantly open and eager to learn and fold those new experiences and knowledge in, and then adapt what you do along the way.
Andrea, why don't we talk about the so we've got marketing, there's an entrepreneurial sort of like spirit, understanding of business and building business in terms of what you've learned and then applied through the businesses that you're built in terms of pragmatics. The behavioral science aspect of this. So what's the relationship here between what you understand with behavioral science, customer understanding that actually translates to business?
So that's kind of the magic. And I think that's the thing I faced as a young female executive was I had these ideas. Maybe I wanted to do something in marketing where we had a new initiative or program, or I wanted to position something in a different way. And the first barrier was always getting buy-in, getting other people to see the idea and embrace the idea. And I found out very quickly, and I spoke about this in a TED talk I gave as well, that it wasn't about the data. It wasn't about the argument. It wasn't about having everything in place and saying, this makes so much logical sense, you can't say no. It was about these more psychology-based, which was my minor in college, barriers that, these cognitive biases that really stopped people from seeing my perspective, or at least the objective I was trying to achieve. And so I kind of reverse engineered it and realized what are people's motivations? What baggage do they have already? What are these kind of mental shortcuts they're taking that causes them to not understand or be fearful of change? And that kind of became the foundation out of honestly personal practice in business to say, this worked, this didn't work, this worked for this environment. And kind of making that into I don't want to say a formal methodology, but an approach where anyone can make change in their organization, but you have to consider the behaviors behind it.
So in terms of, this new book, so again, there's 3 books that you've written. I mean, you are a prolific writer in terms of Harvard Business Review, CEO Magazine, Inc., all of those sort of, very well-read publications, but you've actually written several books as well as your podcasting, your blogging, and all of those things. The latest book, What to Ask, How to Learn What Customers Need But Don't Tell You. I mean, what's new? What is new to learn in marketing? I mean, haven't we sort of learned everything that there is? I'm completely kidding. What are the new things that you are discovering that you're then applying to all of your customers?
To put it in a nutshell, I think the problem is that in marketing, we get so obsessed with ourselves. What ideas we have, what do we want to do? And if we say, no, 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 we're customer centric, we care about our customers, it's still kind of that one directional. We are going to give them this. We are going to make their lives easier. But if you don't understand the context in which their lives exist, then how can you design something that is really compelling and differentiating for them, that's genuinely for them? So the crux of the book is about a very simple methodology to change your mindset, to shift it from what you want to putting yourself in the shoes of what customers want. So a great example is you might be able to provide a simple way for someone to, I don't know, buy something or, take advantage of a service. But if their environment is different, let's say they're pregnant, or let's say they're in a rush, or let's say, whatever that context may be, now you go, if that's the target audience I'm pursuing, I'm going to need to redesign this considering that context. So it's really about shifting how you think about your target audience and customers, and then designing an experience or a product or service to meet those unique set of needs.
So I think that's particularly helpful for product design, product launch, making sure that you've got the right product market fit. But how does the marketing come in? I mean, we are in a world where it is very crowded. It's very difficult to reach audience. And you have a particular knack for this. You've learned how to do this, growing up in digital marketing, which is just an explosive part of the industry. How do you reach? I mean, what are sort of the secrets there in terms of reaching the audiences that you want to reach with this type of methodology?
I think it goes back to three things, and they're very simple. One is differentiation, two is genuineness, and three is really reaching them where they are, right? So we think, okay, marketing, the easiest thing to do is just the spray and pray method, right? We're going to put something out on Facebook, we're going to put something out on Instagram, et cetera, check all those boxes. And then we kind of wait. And then we go, well, maybe it's the content. Maybe that's not compelling enough. So we try something different, and then we push it again. The problem is how are you standing out from the other people, the other companies, the other entities that are offering things similar in that category? You need to find what is your flavor that not only really stands out, but also is kind of a compelling connection to whoever you're targeting. Mm-hmm. And usually people aren't targeting a subset or actually a target audience, but everybody, right? They're saying, or their category is so broad, like let's say just males. Well, that's just too abstract. You have to think, what do you want to dig into and really own? What subsegment do you want to own? And then the second piece, of course, was genuine, right? You have to have a voice and a message and something that has true value to that audience, rather than what only you want to say. It's how can you figure out what they're needing and where they're coming from, and something that connects, just like making a friend, right? There's those nuances, just doing it at scale. And then thirdly, as I mentioned, it's where are they? So yeah, they might be on Facebook, they might be on Instagram, but are they in small groups? Do they physically congregate other places? Do they have other networks that they're a part of? What about the industries they're in and the jobs they have, or family things and family groups? So you have to really know your audience intimately to get down in the weeds with them and really connect.
And Andrea, what are you thinking about just, how technology is changing, certainly during the course of your career and sort of, building businesses and helping so many businesses? You've seen a lot of change in terms of customer understanding, a lot of change in terms of like how marketing and digital marketing, of course, is its whole entity. But I was reading something recently that, with Chat GPT, that the work of copy editor, copywriter, content creator, might become obsolete. Do you think that's true? What do you think we need to pay attention to? What are your thoughts about the trends there?
I mean, I think there's always a percentage of casualties with any new technology. So, when the telephone came about, all those telegraph operators, either lost their jobs or they had to become a telephone operator or something else, right? So there is some attrition that always occurs. I think it's a question of where and to what extent. So right now, that's the hot new sexy thing, right? When Facebook was the hot new sexy thing, when TikTok was the hot new sexy thing, this will come and go. It will find its niche in certain areas where you need something that's simple, logical, a quick turnaround, right? So a lot of that might be in the media space, anything that's incredibly time sensitive. But even though the outputs are generally well written, I think they lack a voice, right? You think about all the authors, whether it's nonfiction or fiction that you've read, they have a voice that is very unique to them. And it's unique because of their background, their experiences, their lives that how do you replicate that? How do you put that in a box? So I don't think it'll go away completely. It'll have its day in the sun. It'll find its function, but it's not something that, we'll never have copywriters ever again.
Okay. And so you're not feeling in any way sort of worried about the fact that you write, I don't know how much you write, but it seems like a couple articles a week or something you're putting out in addition to the books that you're authoring. You feel like you're going to continue to do that and you're not going to just sort of like let ChatGPT take over for you.
What I found is with writing and writing consistently is that I can tell, just like if you were working out, let's say you were doing weight training, that incrementally you're getting a little better, right? And you're finding your groove. Why would I want to give up that accomplishment? I think in anything else, I want to have that satisfaction of, wow, I can see from a year ago to today how much my writing voice has changed and how I've become a lot more succinct, or my vocabulary is expanded a bit. And that's just personal growth and satisfaction. So,
yep.
Even if it's like, well, we don't need you to write anymore, I can always still write for my own personal benefit. And that will help me write things in business, personal notes to someone who, let's say, got a job. It's a skill. And I still want to always develop that skill myself.
Yep. Well, you also have a lot of passion for not the skills that you're developing for yourself, but also what you share with others. The program you did this weekend, the TEDx work that you do in your local area. So let's go back to you, Andrea. So some of the themes that I often hear about in inspiring women with very accomplished women are things like burnout. I hear about things in terms of like, what were the original inspiration for you that has allowed you to carry that energy forward? So let's talk about that in particular, because it is not a joke. The number of things that you do simultaneously. I mean, I was exhausted just reading through them. So where does your energy come from, and how have you been able to sustain it?
Oh, okay. So, I mean, if I'm going to be fully candid, there are some secrets to it. So, one is I love to sleep. I really like to sleep, and boy, I need like 8, 9. I think sleep is restorative. So I really try to not change myself on sleep, because if you are fully charged and ready to go, you can get a lot more done in a lot less time. If you're walking around in a cloud, it doesn't matter that you're awake, right? You're not productive. I think the second thing is pacing. And I say this because, back in my youth, when I was in corporate America, I felt like there was this compelling pressure to, you need to do all these things, you need to keep up with this, there's an image you need to maintain, whatever that myriad of things are. And over time, I realized I was getting burnt out, and I was getting stressed out, and I was eating poorly, and I was making bad health choices. And I stopped and asked myself, well, but why are you doing that? And my answer to myself was, because I think that's what I'm supposed to do. And then at that moment, it was like, but nobody said that. You were making that conscious decision to to put that upon yourself. There is no dictum that says you must do it this way. That's the way everyone else is doing it. And if you do want to stand out, you have to do it a different way. And that was a big pivotal point. So, the laundry list of the 12 things that I do, the trick is that those are not all everyday things.
Yeah.
They are pockets of time. And so that gives me the flexibility to have only a small amount of things that are daily things. And then those other moments where, let's say, Harvard Business Review needs an article, that's not every day. That's not every month. And that's a nice pocket to say, okay, great. I can now focus on something different, get out of maybe a rut or a groove. And they're invigorating things. And that balance and flow enables me to have a day that may on paper look like I'm accomplishing everything someone ever wanted to do. But I have the flexibility and free time because I'm controlling the schedule. I'm controlling the amount of inputs at any given time, but yet keeping the consistency. So then the business is flowing and, you're growing your portfolio, et cetera, et cetera.
Andrea, why do you think that works for you? I would call that not the normal path to have the, dozen or so fractional professional things as you do that keep you going, and clearly you're able to juggle it all. Why did you choose that? We're often, as women growing up, we're told we can have it all. Did you decide that this is how you were going to have it all? Just how do you reflect on that?
Well, I think having it all is kind of depending on how you define it, right? What ticks all those boxes for you, and what you see someone else doing. That what their all is doesn't mean that if you're not doing that, you're not up to snuff. It's whatever your all is should be defined by you, and you should measure your own success by what keeps you happy and motivated and satisfied. For me, it was variety. If I'm in a role where I'm doing the same thing each and every day and I'm not consistently mentally challenged or forced to think in a different way, like some of my hobbies are a lot more physical and mechanical because I do a lot of writing. So, I'll build something, like I'll build a table or work on a car. I'll do something that requires a different part of my brain because I want to keep that muscle as active as possible. So as soon as I'm doing something that's a little too repetitive, I need to inject something else. And so that's what that portfolio of different things are, is that I can pull those in when I need to kind of reignite.
Does it also come with a level of, to me, that there's a level of sort of risk tolerance that seems higher than I think I would have certainly ever felt, at the earlier days in my career, not having something that was full-time, the one and only thing I was doing. So what is special about you that makes you able to tolerate that level of risk? It sounds exciting. Sounds a little bit of like, a lot of adrenaline rushes, but also like, oh my gosh, do I have, all these things?
Yeah. There's moments of like, oh my God, everything's going to collapse. Of course. But you know what? Those moments become fewer and far between, right? At first, they come fairly frequently. And it's kind of like anything else. Like you have to practice stretching your risk tolerance. I don't think you should get too extreme, but anything in moderation is usually a good thing. So you have to practice kind of being cognizant and mindful of, okay, why is this bothering me? What is my concern? What's my backup plan, right? How am I going to hedge my bets here? But I'm going to keep taking risks. So you start getting a little more comfortable. Some of that is, to be candid, is infrastructure. So I look at my bills and my overhead costs and I go, okay, my strategy there is what can I do to keep everything as low as possible? So if God forbid everything collapsed and I had to go get a job as a Starbucks barista, could I cover my bills for 3 months, 90 days, yes or no? And so I look at it as I want to build an architecture in my life to advance me the freedom to have some more risks, because those people that tend to grow and be successful are a little more risk tolerant. Some are very risk tolerant, and that can go both ways. But that, I think, gives you confidence when you do take a risk and it works out, even if it's not shining stars, but it's like, oh, that didn't fail. It's compounding. There's a compounding element to that that's incredibly important.
Well, I think it's also actually quite compelling. I mean, particularly for younger women, the number of choices that they have available and what they value. I was just speaking to some Gen Z women, as their earlier start of their career, and what they think about in terms of what they want is more in the realm of higher risk, but more satisfaction with the impact that they're having. One more question before we close out, Andrea, if you could think back maybe 10 years for when you were earlier and starting out, what advice would you give yourself from 10 years ago based on where you are today?
Oh gosh, that's hard. I have a lot to say to myself, and I would have been that angry Gen Xer that would have told myself to, go ride a bike. So that is a little double-edged sword there. But I would say, first and foremost, chill out. Chill out. You are imposing these standards, requirements, goals, all that upon yourself. Nobody's doing it. You think society's doing it. You think other people are looking. They are not. They're obsessed with themselves just as much as you are. So don't worry about it. And if you're setting the goals, you can change the goals. You can change the goalposts. So who cares? Second would be, you got to have some more patience. I know you want this yesterday, and you feel like now that you're 23, you're an old spinster and it's over, but it's not. It really isn't. And don't you want to be like 65, 70 and be the coolest person on earth? So be patient. It's okay. And then lastly, I would say that, and this is one of the things, one of the students, actually, it was a Gen Z female student today, was asking, what can I do to be a better leader? Right? That was her concern. And she talked a little bit about her style. And she's like, I just want to make sure everybody's doing their job. And I know I'm a little overbearing, and people say, maybe they say I'm a little bitchy, or maybe they say these terms that we've all heard. And I said, here's the trick. The trick is, and this goes back to the risk tolerance and confidence, is when you empower others, like really help them do better, whoever your team is, you are seen as a leader. You are actually someone who, even though you feel like I'm not doing anything, because you got to do, right? We have to do everything. Listen, the boys don't. Okay, tell me another executive that you see that's doing. Those boys are not doing. They're just directing, right? And supporting. I say, take a page from their book, right? We are never going to be able to do it all. So don't try. Help other people do. And you have a role. It's just a different role that you're used to.
Well, I think that advice for your 10-year ago self is incredibly applicable to today as well, and certainly younger women as well. I love the advice of chill out. It's going to be okay. So thank you so much, Andrea. As we do close out on Inspiring Women, as you just think about all the different entrepreneurs, business people, younger women in particular who are just starting out, what is your best advice for those younger women today who aspire to be leaders of the future?
Don't let them beat you down. That doesn't mean that you need to react and respond, right? And be kind of have that itchy trigger finger, if you will. But everybody is coming from a place that includes their past and whatever baggage comes with that, and then what they're trying to accomplish today. And whoever you're talking to, they have aspirations. They want to climb the organization. They want to do this. They have kids to support, whatever. You have to understand that context. And if you don't, find out the context, because there's always a reason for someone's behavior. So keep in mind that, knowledge is power.
Well, that is great advice for so many people. I really appreciate so much, Andrea, this conversation. This has been an excellent Inspiring Women conversation. I have been speaking with behavioral scientist, change agent, author, Andrea Belk Olson. And Andrea, thank you so much.
Thank you.
This has been an episode of Inspiring Women with Laurie McGraw. Please subscribe, rate, and review. We are produced by Kate Cruz at Executive Podcast Solutions. More episodes can be found on inspiringwomen.show. I am Laurie McGraw, and thank you for listening.